This afternoon at 2 with Sean Hannity. Right before Joe Walsh at 5 on AM 560. The Answer.
Don't you like this song too, Sean? No time left for you.
I like
Come on,
them all.
I've been trying to get you to sing the last 2 days.
Don't sing.
You got nothing for me.
No, I don't sing.
All you do is smoke cigars, huh? Don't watch sports.
No.
Taking your man card away.
You know what? I like to read, and I'll
Yes.
tell you what. I like Andrew Klavan very much. Very smart guy, and I bet he likes to write novels and books, and I'll bet you he can't write any fiction better than what we're living through right now.
Yeah, and he recently wrote an article called, the title is Trump Has Made Our Government More Moral. With that, we welcome back to the program Andrew Klavan, the one and only. Good morning, Mr. Klavan. How are you?
Morning, Amy. How you doing?
Do you like when I call you Mr. Klavan, or should I just call you Andrew?
Just Lord Andrew.
I like it.
So in this article, you talked about, the government, or, how Trump has made our government more moral. What do you mean exactly?
Well, I think one of the tricks that the news media likes to pull on us is to kind of get us to confuse personal morality with the morality of our government, of the way we're governed. And they're always telling us, Mitt Romney tied a dog to the top of his car, and Donald Trump has chased women around the room at beauty contests, all of which may or may not be true and may or may not be important. But I just wanted people to notice the difference in our government over this last year. I mean, Trump has had a if you're a conservative, Trump has had a tremendously successful year. And when I say he's made the government more moral, what I mean is that he has redirected the government to its moral purposes. This is old ethical philosophy dating all the way back to ancient Greece, that a thing has to, in order to be moral, has to fulfill its moral purposes. And we know the moral purpose of government because our founders told us in the Declaration that government is there to secure the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it does that by limiting its actions over us, by letting us make our ethical decisions for ourselves, by letting us make our moral decisions for ourselves. And Trump has made the government more moral by making less, in two ways. One, by making less of it. He's cutting, if he succeeds in cutting taxes, that'll be a big deal, but he's put judges in place. Almost 60 judges will be in place who basically are dedicated to the Constitution, not rewriting law from the bench, which takes the rights away from people. He's cut back regulations, which give unelected bureaucrats power over our lives that they shouldn't have. The bureaucrats that he has appointed are dedicated to cutting back their agencies, which is a revolution in and of itself. So he's making government do what it's supposed to do instead of, government's not supposed to make us equal. It's just supposed to treat us equally. It's not supposed to make us fair. It's supposed to treat us fairly. And Trump's government is doing more of that. Plus, as far as I can tell, there may be things behind the scenes I don't know, but he's not using the IRS to silence his enemies. He's not using the Justice Department to help elect people from his party. That's a way that government can become immoral, by being ideologically corrupt. Barack Obama was not a personally corrupt man who did things for his own wealth, but he was a corrupt Chicago Paul who used government agencies as power bases for his party and for his philosophy. And that is a very corrupt thing to do in America. That's not the way America is supposed to behave. Our Justice Department is supposed to be even-handed. Our IRS is supposed to be even-handed. We have trusted the government with this for centuries, and Obama turned all that around. So Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, and I don't always like him, and whether you think he's a moral person or not, or has lived a moral life or a saintly life, has actually made our government more moral. And I think that that's important when you start to hear all the scandal mongers telling you that you have to be afraid of what somebody did 30 years ago or what somebody's accusing him of doing. You should remember, unless they prove that the guy is depraved, which is important. If a guy is depraved, you can't trust him to do good in government. But if they're going to say that a guy has done or a woman has done something in his or her past that is bad, you have to sort of reflect, well, so have I, so is everybody. And is he going to do what government is supposed to do? I think Barack Obama ran a very immoral government. I don't think Barack Obama is a particularly immoral guy. I don't think he's out killing people or anything like that, but he ran an immoral government. And Trump has run a more moral government, whatever you think of him personally.
Well, if we're going to invoke old Greece, which I like to do from time to time, I'm going to go with Socrates, who was disgusted with the idea of democracy because it was full of demagoguery. And I don't think you have two better examples than Trump or Obama. So I think that a lot of what you're saying, I understand and I agree with, but I think a lot of it is going on hope and faith. When the reality is, I find his misusement of executive orders, although they may be in alignment with things I agree with, I find it as repulsive as I did Obama's. And as far as achievements, I see what you're saying with achievements, but I also see where there is a lot of the same nonsense going on. For instance, he complained about the insurance company getting hundreds of millions of tax dollars, but did he stop it? He complained about the IRS new 17,000 agents, but did he fire them? He has a lot of chances where he could have gone far, but I think he's looked over the cliff and hasn't jumped in a lot of these cases. And I do see, as people, he's tribalized the nation as much so, if not more, than Obama.
Well, I think that may or may not be true. I don't actually think Trump is to blame for that. And second, you can look at any president's first year and talk about the things that he hasn't done, but he's actually destroyed. I mean, when he took office, ISIS took 23,000 square miles of territory because of Obama's malfeasance in Iraq and Syria. Mm-hmm. Now they have no territory. They have a portisan somewhere. I mean, that's a major, major achievement.
He took the leash off. I agree with you.
What's that?
He took the leash off, and I agree with you. He has done some good things, and I like that about him. I like a lot of things, but I do not want to put my Caddyshack hat on and become a Trump Krishna in any level. I want to always look at politicians with suspicion. I want to always tell them they could do better.
You look at people with suspicion.
Exactly.
I think you're, first of all, you're absolutely right about that. I agree, but I don't think that's the problem we have with Trump. I think the problem we have with Trump is that his outlandish New York personality, his outsized New York personality, has obscured, especially from the eyes of conservatives, the amazing year of achievement he's had. And I think if I thought our problem was people worshiping Trump, and there are people like that, I know, but I don't happen to be one of them, but if I thought that was the problem, I would be talking about this. What I think the problem is that conservatives are refusing to take yes for an answer. I mean, just looking at one aspect of this presidency, the regulatory rollback. It's so boring. Nobody ever wants to talk about regulations. Mm-hmm. But people like you and me, we don't suffer from regulations because the First Amendment protects us. Believe me, if the government could make regulations on what we say, it would. But the First Amendment protects us. But if you run a business, if you have a ranch, if you own land, the government is in your face every minute of every day. When he cuts back, one of the reasons the stock market and the economy are taking off is simply because people who run businesses from the small to the large are looking and saying, this is not a government that wants to come in and shut me down because my window is 16 1/3 inches off the floor instead of 16 2/4, whatever.
Yeah, and Shaun here owns a business.
Yeah, and what I want to say too, Andrew, is I think what he did with net neutrality is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And I do think what he's done with the regulations, absolutely fantastic. I do hate the fact we are no longer talking about debt. I do hate the fact we are no longer talking about monetary base increases or the reckless spending, which is not Trump's fault, by the way. That is our Congress, our feckless, useless, corrupt Congress. So I'm on board with you.
I have my fingers crossed. Now, this may be over optimistic, but it's the season to be merry. I think that with Paul Ryan, one of the things the mistakes I thought Trump made in his campaign, and one of the things that turned me off about him was his refusal to look at entitlement reform. And I am not one of these guys who wants to sweep away the safety net because I think people need it. They've gotten used to it. I'm not sure you can take it away, even if it would make the world more free. But in a world, Social Security was instituted to go into effect at 65, back when people died at 63. Now people, if you're lucky, you live into your 80s quite well. There's no reason not to push Social Security up for the next generation, the millennial generation, so that it kicks in around 70. That would save us a generation's worth of money. I have some small hope that if this tax bill actually passes, that Paul Ryan and the Congress can start to talk to Trump about ways to reform entitlements without taking them away from people. Because Trump has a heart for the people who elected him, and he knows that they depend on some of these programs. But you're absolutely right. The debt has been off the table for way, way too long under Republicans and Democrats both. It is, in fact, a slow-boiling crisis, and it's something you hope he's going to turn to. I notice it never makes the news unless a Republican is president, but even so, you're absolutely right. It's a huge problem.
In your article, which can be found at pjmedia.com, you close the article by saying if the tax bill passes before Christmas, it will cap an unbelievable string of conservative successes. Do you really think the tax plan is conservative?
Well, I think the tax plan it's almost two plans if you look at it. One is the corporate tax, which I think is excellent. I think that we punish our corporations. We make it so that they have kept, partly because of undependable regulations, partly because of high taxes. They keep all their money offshore. Under the Obama administration, I can't remember the number. It's somewhere in $1 trillion is being kept offshore. If that comes sweeping back into the country, you're going to see jobs. You're going to see more production. You're going to see more, just the kind of business that makes a country come to life. So I think that's an important thing. On the individual taxes, it's kind of a dog's breakfast. I think it gives a tax cut to everybody. It makes that tax cut temporary, which is annoying. I don't understand that at all. And it's just kind of a mess.
Andrew, I'm going to interrupt you 1 second because this is important. I want to know what first of all, I love your work. I'm serious. I want to know what you're working on, what you have coming out, and then I'm going to also interrupt you by saying the answer to all these problems is let me out of it. Social Security, give me my money back, let me out. You don't owe me anything. I'll go first, you go second. So what are you working at, and how do I get the part in Hollywood without giving Weinstein a lap dance?
I want everybody to check out a podcast on iTunes or however you get your podcast called Another Kingdom. It's a suspense fantasy story, really different than anything you've heard. It's a serial story. We've got the first 10 episodes up right now, so you have lots to listen to. And if it's going to take a week off for the holidays, and then we're going to come back and finish the season with 3 more episodes, and then we hope to come back with a new season in the new year. So it's called Another Kingdom, and it's on iTunes, and if you subscribe, it'll give you the whole, it's all free, and it'll give you the whole story.
All right, thanks so much, Andrew Klavan. Appreciate your time. Andrew Klavan, screenwriter. He has written many books, one being the author of The Great Good Thing, A Secular Jew Comes to Faith in Christ.
He never answers the door in a robe.
Never.
He's a good guy, Andrew.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.